Scanning for audio.
Hello, you. So, you know what? I know I've got a lot of catching up to do. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as of today, big finishes to talk about. That's Blake 7, Christmas, the new Doctor Who's, the War Doctor, the lot. But I've been watching, as you know, Stranger Things. And it's done now. It's over with. I've reached the end of season 5 and I just want to have a quick chat with you. Well, I say quick, you know what it's like. I want to have a chat with you about it, about how good it was. And you know what? I do kind of wish that I'd kind of reviewed every single episode as it came out and had a quick chat with you about that. And of course, now that it's finished, part of me, just part of me, is tempted to go back to the start, watch it again, and do a single podcast every single time. But this time with all of that foreknowledge, which would of course make things a little bit more tricky. But let's all chat about it. So, season 5, there's a part 1, there's a part 2. And it finished this year on January the 1st. So it actually finished this month as I record this. And it was 10 years of their life. I know they started out when they were, 12, and now they're 22, some of the people. And you just have to suspend your disbelief because you know what? We had COVID in the middle of that. People forget that. They really do. This really, really means a lot to people. And you know what? I kind of have gone out and got myself just one or two Lego minifigures of the Stranger Things people. Well, you see, I wanted Neddy Munster, and I wanted, you know what I mean. I wanted those, and I wanted them quite badly, and I wanted them in a lovely little display case, just like my doctors. My nice set of 19 doctors all sat there together, and I wanted something, and I went on eBay and I could find them, and I know they're not real, because if I was to spend all that money on a real Stranger Things Lego set, you've got the upside down in the house, and then you've got the other house, the one that's in this season, and they cost, well, together you could probably afford a Death Star out of it, so that's just not going to happen. So I've kept all of my not real Lego people all together, because I don't want to, pollute the purity of the Lego race. But they do look damn fine, especially the Vecna at the back. And in fact, they all look brilliant. The Dustin's spot on. But that's not, you're not here for me to talk about the exciting world of me buying Lego figures. No. Let's do this from the top. My first notes say, a radio station. 50,000 watts, and you just know that that's going to be a serious part of the narrative. They're going to, at some point, need that much power and that kind of antenna. Now, I was completely convinced that I'd seen the radio station in the upside down and the radio mast had fallen over and was on its side. Not so. And I've got more questions which we'll come back to later on. So, it is interesting to see the jump between the end of season 4 and the beginning of season 5. Now, I am completely convinced that it's all a balance. It's the first 2 seasons are one big chunk, and season 4 and 5 are another big chunk. I mean, they definitely fit together, with season 3 being a sort of pivot thing. A lot of people find season 3 the best, and a lot of people find it the worst. It's all very self-referential. You can do all that. But this is such a great ending. People people have sort of gone, oh, it's not as good, oh, it's as bad as Lost, all that moaning, just forget it. I loved it. Little things, let's go through these notes. Will, hey, I'll be the radar, 8 episodes, and you know what, it does feel like the end. And of course, one of my notes here is, I will now have to read A Wrinkle in Time, which, you know what, I'm in the UK. The only experience of A Wrinkle in Time I've got is knowing that it's on, I think, Disney Plus, and it's got Oprah in it. Never watched it. It had middling reviews, and that's it. But you know what? It's like in this country, the class reader is an inspector calls, and you do it at GCSE. So this is a middle school reading book. This is perfect for Holly's age. And it's a bit of fantasy literature that I just wasn't aware of. So I downloaded it on my Kindle because, you know, that is my want, and I can read it in the dyslexic-friendly fonts. And the first line is, it was a dark and stormy night. Yeah. When you're on writers' courses, there's a few things that they warn you against, that they expect you kind of to already know. You don't start stories with, it was a dark and stormy night. I once went against that and started a short story with, it should have been a dark and stormy night, but it was actually rather pleasant. And I'm sure other people have done the same thing, but you just don't start a story like that, and they do. And it works, because this is a shared narrative, a shared experience, just like the other kids with Dungeons and Dragons, putting their reading of what's going on into the fantasy world. Well, the not-so-fantasy world. And, as you know, for the last 4 big podcasts, I've been banging on about what the mechanics of the Upside Down is. And apparently in this series we find out something. And it gets more complicated. And I might have missed something. And you know what? If I did, I'm sorry. So, according to Dustin's diagram, and after the research, and they go upstairs, okay, you know the goo stuff that looks like melted wax? Is that the thing that the entire universe is made from? And then after the big slowdown at the end of time and everything becomes beige, is that what this is? Is that what that matter is? I mean, the melty, slow rising thing with the table, all of that, and the melted people in the floors and all of those, that makes sense. So let's look at this. We've now got an overarching proper narrative and timeline for the whole of the events. Except we haven't, because we don't know where the magic stone came from. Now, it might be in some spin-off media or a prequel series set in the 50s or something like that. But all you've got is magic scary dust from the void sends out a meteor. Meteor gets picked up on Earth. Now something happens and people have experience of it because that's how they know it's dangerous and scary. Guy ends up down a mine, and then Henry finds man and then gets possessed by stone. That possession eventually ends up with his entire narrative going on. I get all of that. Okay, you're with me, because then Henry gets infected, and then Henry's blood's used to create the other kids, which I still have issues with. I know that one of the spin-off narrative books describes the experience of the mum, and it was supposed to be like Firestarter, so we assumed that it was medication, but it wasn't because it was a part of MK Ultra and so on. But this is different. Because apparently the man who's an expert, the doctor, Papa, who's an expert in all of this science, is also the person responsible for some more meta-science and some mad science genius stuff that involves strange matter. Is that why it was called Stranger Things? Probably not. I always thought it was a misquote of Shakespeare. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed about in your philosophy. But there are stranger things in heaven and earth than are dreamed about in your philosophy. Yeah, well, we can deal with that. So, we've got our world and we've got the void. And the gap between our world and the void is created using strange matter, which creates the Upside Down, which is brilliant. All makes sense, except it doesn't, because, well, you know what? Other people have got issues. They're like, how did the communications and the lights in season 1 work if this is a bridging thing? How did the time freeze when it was... Okay, how about the Upside Down was created when the matter went through and the strange matter was created because the mad Professor Papa was trying to create a point, was trying to get to the void, when what actually happened was he created this extra dimensional place. is the strange fleshy wall the actual wall of the wormhole? Yeah? Perhaps, I'm guessing it is. So the fleshy wall, which you've never come across in 4 other seasons, is the wormhole. Again, I'm having to point out my learned friends to that bit of, Scream where somebody says about if you've got too much backstory going on, then you're definitely in a sequel. And I know they were trying to sort the whole thing out. It was nice that number 8 turned up. I liked all of that. So what is the grey goo? Is that what the universe is made from? I'm just going through that. Was there always a wall? I just don't know. So I can accept a lot of those things. However, there's a tiny part of me that when there was a monster in the woods, so that's the stuff that's taking place in Henry's mind, but he's got the kids in his strange spider castle tree thing. Oh my God, how long did they take to walk to that? Seriously? It's just a stupidly long walk. Hey, why don't we have a stroll and we can have some nice moments where we all chat about our feelings and about what's going to happen in the future. I get all that. And then they get there and then they have the big battle, which is worthy of being in Dungeons and Dragons. I see that. I see that for what it is. It had to be a big payoff. It had to be a big battle, and that was fine. So that was the battle of the thing that had infected Henry's mind. So blah, 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 blah. Anyway, okay, fine. We got it. We've got all that. And we did enjoy it. We all loved it. So time didn't stop when he was taken. Nancy's read that time stopped, and that's why the universe was there. But what actually happened was, I think he was taken when Papa launched the Strange Matter bridge. So the Upside Down came into existence at that point, and that was when Will was taken. But does that make sense? Because is that when 11 broke through? Because that's when she escaped? Was it all in the same night? I mean, it's possible. Perhaps a greater mind than I needs to be discussing it. So we've got all this. We've got the nice big battle at the end. We've got the build-up. We've got everything. It's all lovely. We've got the reanimation of the light, the electricity going through the big petal head guy and all that business. However, we've also got what I can only describe, and so my wife described it to me and I described it to her at exactly the same time, was the Lord of the Rings ending. The thing finished and it still had half an hour to go. And it was nice. The graduation ceremony was nice. The rebuilding of the town was nice. Okay, it was like they'd rebuilt Sunnydale after the Hellmouth. I get that. That final D&D game is the only reason that Dustin's girlfriend wouldn't have been there, because he needed to be at that D&D game, otherwise he would have been at the party that he didn't go to, which was great. The graduation speech is brilliant, and I, for one, want that graduation speech printed out and as a T-shirt. You know what? There's a time when you would go on the internet and you would type in Dustin's graduation speech, and it would find it, and it would print it up for you, and it was lovely. And now, thanks to the exciting world of Google and AI and all of that nonsense, first thing that comes up is an AI shrunken version. Another thing that comes up is an apology saying I cannot print that because it is a breach of copyright. What's all this business? That's not what the internet was for. The internet was to give us exactly what we wanted in the first place. We would ask it a question and it would give us a definitive, real, found answer. And we would judge for ourselves if it was real. We wouldn't be told, you can't look at that because it's a breach of copyright and it's somebody else's stuff. And then it also puts up a video of the actual speech in YouTube. It's stupid. So I want that in white, on black, possibly with a Hellfire Club logo in the corner, as a T-shirt, because it rocked. And I loved the way that he managed to do what Eddie had said. Flip him the bird. Snatch it out of his hands. Take that. It was worthy of the Breakfast Club. And it really was brilliant. It was a highlight. Yes, we've got stuff like Joyce with a massive axe hacking away at Henry's head. It's, hey, tiny kids, I'm going to cause you some more trauma now. I know you're quite traumatised, but I'm just going to make a roll. And, oh yeah, you've all lost an extra sanity point at this point because you're going to see me hack somebody's head off with my massive axe. Which was a lovely Winona Ryder moment. Very, very happy. So yeah, I loved it. That's it. It was suggested that Robin should have been in the restaurant in the background having a meal with Anne of Green Gables. And you know what? Can I just say they really should finish Anne of Green Gables and go back because it finished on a cliffhanger and leave it there? It was magnificent as a series, and it was worthy of everything anybody had ever said, and I'm so glad. So very glad that we got all the way through. Thank you for sticking with me. I now will go back to doing stuff, but I just need to say one more thing about something completely unconnected. I uploaded a video about the Zero Writer to YouTube, and normally I get sort of, say, 50 people downloading or listening to these podcasts, these reviews, these chats. Some of them have had several hundred listens too, especially the one that I put up was called Torchwood Broken, because there was an episode of Torchwood that was called Broken, and everyone thought, oh my God, he's having a go at Torchwood, and that got hundreds and hundreds of downloads. Okay, but this Zero Writer video, where I just talk about my writing and how great this new piece of kit is, which I've got on the separate channel. Now, on the separate channel, it had 300 downloads, but then I put it on the Tin Dog channel on YouTube, and so far it's had about 1,500 downloads of me just talking about this new piece of kit. Now, I know it's the algorithm, and I know I've now got extra subscribers, but seriously, guys, do you want me to stop reviewing programs? Do you want me to stop talking about this and just talk about my writing and talk about electronic kit and review other things? Because I can't see that happening. I'll do it as well, but I'm not doing it instead, because you know what? I just love TV. I always have. And yeah, this has been brilliant, and I'm so glad I waited till it was all out to watch it, so that I wasn't going to get upset with it just not happening. Right, I'm going to go now and try my hardest to record proper Doctor Who reviews so that me and you can get back to business as usual. Until next time, be seeing you. That was the Tin Dog Podcast. All topics discussed are the intellectual property of the copyright owners. No infringement is intended. Why not follow the show on Blue Sky at tindogpodcast.bsky.social. If you've enjoyed this podcast on YouTube, please click like and subscribe. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.